Tired of the stereotypes?
Done with being overlooked?
It's time to change the narrative.
Welcome to East of Me, Tales in the Tea. We're your host, Ji-Hye Choi, a Korean immigrant settler in so-called Canada.
And Samantha Louis Poon, a second-generation Chinese settler in so-called Canada. And this is a podcast where we'll be sipping tea and spilling the tea on the real experiences of East Asian women in North America.
One book, one story, and one conversation at a time. Let's get into it.
Well, welcome back to East of Me, Tales in the Tea, where this episode we will be exploring more thoughts, feelings, and reactions from Yellowface. So in the last episode, we were talking about this idea of stealing ideas. Do you want to share your initial reactions from the book in terms of what happened and your reactions on how that relates to your experiences?
What didn't happen? Because I couldn't put the book down, even though it was making me very, very angry. Mm-hmm. And I think the reason why I kept reading it was because I was hoping for a redemption arc. I was hoping that Junie would give me some kind of redemption, or that Junie would redeem herself as a not racist white lady who stole an East Asian woman's work. Mm-hmm. Or maybe she will understand that there was a grave, I don't even know if mistake is the right word, that it was a grave
error.
Crime. I would say crime.
It is a crime.
Like, acknowledge it as such, and then, I don't know, find ways to, I don't know if correcting is even the right word, but just to honor Athena and her work. But there was no such thing in the book.
It honestly just kept getting worse and worse, and she tried to cover it up, and then instead of pausing and reflecting and thinking, okay, I messed up in the first book, I shouldn't have taken Athena's work and kind of reworked it as she was talking about.
Yeah. She
could have paused and just reflected and been like, okay, I might get caught, and this is a good time to, be a better human. But she didn't. She just kept getting worse and worse and just tried to cover up the last, problems that she was creating, and she was just it just unfolded in a whole mess of her just absolutely just stealing from her friend.
Yeah.
Not just,
literally and physically.
And
metaphorically, I think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Taking her belongings, taking with that the ideas, kind of rewriting or trying to rewrite her legacy, when she's passed on. But this is what will happen though when we are so rooted in this system of, one, it's so competitive and individualistic, so people are, have this mindset that they have to survive, and they're pulling at scraps, and they have to do whatever they have to do to come up with this next amazing idea, or make a living or whatever. And also being rooted in a lot of anti-Asian racism that we were exploring last episode. And this is kind of the outcome that you get is what Junie did.
Yeah, and it, like, there was clear stealing of identity and of art work. But also I feel like Junie really preyed on the fact that Athena couldn't speak for herself because she had passed on. I think she used Athena as a clutch so that people wouldn't question her, especially when there were some things that didn't really line up, or when people questioned, oh, how did you get into this history? How did you know about this history? What made you want to learn about this? And she always used Athena as an inspiration, or that she was inspired by Athena. You know, it's almost like the fact that you needed your dead friend to be the inspiration and to keep you going. Yeah, it wasn't like a tribute kind of a way. It was more like, oh, look at this like amazing Chinese friend I had, and unfortunately she died tragically, but look at me now. Like, I'm doing so much better. Like, she's not only using Athena's identity and work, but she's also like almost like trampling over her and then like standing above her to assert herself and to be like, look how amazing I am. It just felt so gross to me, to be honest. Just because it made me feel like you really did not respect Athena at all. Like, she was never your friend. You never saw her as an equal, just somebody to like bring down, somebody to almost overcome or overpower. Yeah, I really hated it. It made me feel sick to my stomach, because I think the reason why it made me feel sick to the stomach was because I think some people made me feel that, although I couldn't, fully like pinpoint it. Because do you ever experience, like, maybe with some people you're like, this person's like really friendly to me on the outside, and you spend time with them, but you just feel like they're like just ready for your downfall, or demise. They're just like, just one day, and then when you do, I'm just gonna get in there. I don't know. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's absolutely unsafe, and it's real though. It is absolutely real. And I'm sorry that you have to experience that in different spaces, because it's not okay. And it comes back to this idea of, back into the book and in our experiences as well, people just trying to gain power over us, not just in the work that we do, but in life, in our identities, in any aspect of life. So it's very challenging to navigate and almost trust people in these circumstances, when it is, you get that sense about somebody because they're not being authentic in their connection. It's again exactly what we were exploring in the last episode. It's only to entertain and exoticize us up until the point that they can deem us as foreign, and then they will just gain power over. And that's not a way to be in connection with people or to be relational. Like, we should be able to just be in spaces and not have to worry about what might happen next.
Yeah, it's almost like I'm not something to be used, right? Like, I'm a human being, I'm just living my life, but then some people show up in my life and I just feel like they want something from me. And you work in academia, so I wonder if you've experienced that.
Absolutely.
Quite often.
Yes. Yes. It's like, and I think it's similar to what you were saying, and a little bit different. I would say, and this relates back to the book about stealing ideas.
Yeah.
So I would say the first part is the idea of if I have an idea and, you know, with who I am, what I do, and how other people perceive me, if I present an idea in, you know, the area that I'm in, people often will criticize it or think, you know, that's such a bad idea. Why would you even suggest that? And then, you know, perhaps like a year later, or 2 years later, or 6 months later, another person, and sometimes it's the people that thought I had a bad idea, will take my ideas, again, stealing of ideas, and then just, you know, put it out there. And then all of a sudden they're getting praise from, you know, oh, wow, that's such a great idea. And so it comes down to like multiple things. This idea that, you know, East Asian people have a certain experience, but we're only going to view East Asian people as in the way that we want to view them. And that's the perpetual foreigner, right? That we're actively experiencing. So if I propose something, it's like, what are you talking about? Like, no, your ideas, your who you are, your identity, everything about you, that's foreign until I deem it to be okay for myself. And then I'm going to actually co-opt the ideas, steal the ideas, and then claim it as my own and, you know, present that or publish it or take it and do a project. And, you know, that happens quite often. And it's something that is often not talked about because people don't think that it can happen to East Asian people or to me. And I will say that I don't know what it's like to not experience that on like a month-to-month basis. And it's kind of just become the reality. And that's almost why this book really hits close to home, this idea of, okay, I could actually see this be a reality.
Oh, yeah. And then it made me wonder if the author herself has experienced this. And I'm like, of course she did, right? And then it's when you were just sharing about your experience, what came up for me was it's almost like East Asian women are not seen as leaders or somebody who puts forward an idea and can carry a project through. I think because like a lot of times when people see us, they're just thinking about our food or our culture, music or shows or movies. Like they're not really thinking about the bad experiences that we experience. So it just kind of goes over their head, I think. And what I remember is, let's say in meetings, similar to you all mention an idea, but they're like, oh no, that's not gonna work. And then literally 5 minutes later, somebody else says it and they're like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. I'm like, were we not in the same room talking to each other? It's almost like I'm a ghost. I am an invisible a person, a ghost, like, hello, knock knock. Anybody here? I honestly think it's because people don't see us as leaders, unfortunately. But I think that is exactly why, you know, you, for example, should be in a position of authority. And me, I'll get there.
You should.
You know, I'm ambitious enough, you know. But I wonder if people even see us as ambitious, maybe hardworking. But I don't know if we're even seen as ambitious sometimes.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Like, I think it's this narrative, again, it's the model minority myth. Absolutely a myth of, you know, you're an East Asian woman. You just must be naturally so smart and you're just doing this work. And yeah, it's kind of just laid in front of you. And that's what it is. But again, this myth, it's a myth. But these identities and narratives that people put on us to label us, that will always be quickly taken away when they feel that we are foreign. Threatening, foreign.
So we were talking about stealing ideas, but I think oftentimes our stories get, monitored, edited, changed. And I think this was really evident with the publisher. When Junie tried to publish Athena's book, I think it was when they were trying to make it into a movie, they really wanted to be appealing to the majority, to the mass, essentially to white people. And then even the male character who was supposed to be Asian, they changed it to a white general, if I remember correctly. And then it was supposed to be like a non-romantic relationship where they support each other, but they had to throw in some white savior, white man saving. What is this, Pocahontas? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was like, I know that happens often too, but it's not just this idea about stealing, but also changing our narratives so that it's like digestible to people who are not Asian. But I'm like, why are our experiences not good enough, like, on their own? Why do they have to be changed? What's wrong with our experiences? Like, is it that exotic? I thought you liked exotic things and people. So it's like, even the fact that it can change so quickly, it's frustrating. Because like we talked about before, you just feel like you can't win. There's a barrier this way, there's a barrier this way. You feel devalued or dismissed one way or another. And sometimes I feel like the only way, I don't even know if out of is like realistic, but only way to deal with it is to just face it head on, and then, or sometimes not think about it too much and just not change who you are just because of the noise. But easier said than done, right?
And I think that you said it perfectly. This, oscillating between different types of stereotypes, whether it's, the model minority myth or the perpetual foreigner stereotype. And at the end of the day, it's never our authentic stories or experiences. It's always the projection of someone else's narrative that they want to create about us. And that's why when we are thinking or talking about East Asian experiences, and more broadly as well Asian experiences, it's the idea that there isn't one way that we actually experience anti-Asian racism. It comes in a complexity and multitude of ways, and it's the quick shifting of those stereotypes and biases that happen that is very disorienting for East Asian people, because at one point, people can be like, yeah, you should absolutely do all these things, and you're part of, this model minority, and, you're this so-called, perfect citizen. And in the same breath, it will be like, as soon as something happened, we become scapegoats. We become dirty and disgusting and all these labels. And it's never, it's never us creating, narratives for ourselves. It's always, it's other people creating the narratives, and also the quick shifting between what people label us as, because that, essentially is how we are used as tools in the whole system, and that often is not recognized. It's only looking at the East Asian experience through one lens, but it's not. It's a multitude, and it's very complex. And and I forget what I was.
Yeah, it's almost like an illusioned agency.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
That hit deep, right? I'm like, illusioned. Like illusion agency, in that I don't feel like I have agency. But when people view me as such, I feel a huge disconnect. And I think because of the disorientation, it makes me wonder if I have to change something about myself, how I interact with other people. Like, I end up becoming so hyper vigilant because I don't know what to do with the disconnection. And my brain and my body is trying to survive, you know, or to somehow fit in. But almost kind of crashing out because you're like, what is going on? I thought I had agency, but I don't. And maybe it's part of us having to also unlearn this model minority myth. Because although we know like that's a myth, I think oftentimes like we forget that it's a myth, or that like because other people tell us like it's real or treat us as if it's real, we're like, maybe it is real. Like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, I feel like there's a lot we also have to unlearn every day. And to remember to unlearn it, I feel like that is probably a struggle that I personally have. Yeah. And I think that's why, you know, if like good things happen to me, maybe it's because I deserve it, or because I actually worked hard towards it, but because other people have said, oh no, but that's because of the model minority, like you just have things laid out for you. I'll be like, is it? And I think that often leads to doubts, second guessing myself, and me, because I feel almost bad that like something good happened, I almost have to downplay it or say, oh, I was lucky, even though I am very qualified, very competent in receiving the things that come my way. I almost feel like I have to say, oh, it just kind of happened. You know?
Yeah. And I think that's the scary part of when we're put into these boxes of we could only be a certain person from someone else's, you know, perception. It's hard to expand as a human. It's hard to, you know, navigate. And absolutely, we should be able to, and you should be able to specifically feel proud of the accomplishments that you actually have done, and that comes with a lot of experiences of racism, oppression, discrimination, as well, and to not, you know, be kind of, you know, self-doubt in the sense that you are doing excellent, and it's not because of you are a model minority. You are you are doing what you need to be doing, and along with that, like, you have, you know, had experiences of discrimination, and, you know, that's not your whole story. And at the same time, nothing was just given.
No.
Right?
I wish I could say that, but really no. And I think it's really disheartening when you see like friends or even like other people that are close to you, like potentially coworkers or other people in your life, when they see you as such. Like, they say they don't, but certain words or actions say otherwise. And that actually really makes me sad, because it's almost like I feel like I've reached a point in the relationship with them, but then when that shows up, it's like, oh, that was just like all on the surface, or maybe that actually didn't mean anything deep as I thought it did. You know? So I think that also makes me more hyper vigilant, but also more distrusting of others, unfortunately. And I feel like that is the mental toll of the model minority myth, and also being like being exotified and also being tokenized and like all of the above. And I just feel like I'm like, who is really out there for me? But of course, when you get into the spiral, then you end up at a place where you're like, I can only trust myself, and we don't want to get there, because that's also not a good place to be in, because we're human beings. We need each other. We crave connections, and I can't create connections just by myself. If I did, I think that says that I think that points more to like narcissism or something.
Yeah. And I think like all of this really comes down to this idea of when we're talking about experiences of East Asian people and exactly what you're saying, how to navigate it, and when you're processing it, it's like, what should I do if you know, I'm not a model minority, and I'm not a foreigner, and I don't want to be tokenized, but I like it. There are just so many things going on, and when you were talking about, you know, who can you trust except for yourself, this is exactly what the system wants us to think, right? To be, you know, isolate people from each other and be individualistic, and that is the structures of society. And I think when we're thinking about that, what you were saying of we crave connection, and also that's how we may in one way overcome, you know, the experiences of racism that we do have, is to be rooted in, you know, this mindset of community and relationality, and not coming down to just we can't trust anyone, because that is basically a symptom of, you know, the wider system of racism. Capitalism.
Yeah. We should exactly be doing what they don't want us to be doing.
Exactly.
Yeah. And maybe that's the relearning part that we have to do. When we want to retract back into ourselves, maybe it's like a turtle. When we want to go back into our shell, we're like, nah, come on. There's more to what's on the outside. Can't stay inside the shell forever.
Yeah.
Maybe once in a while is okay.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, solitude is
good. You know, we love solitude. Yeah, but if it becomes more like isolation, then I think it's time to push yourself back out there, reconnect, not just with your culture, but people. Whatever really refuels you, I think, is what's gonna lead us back to where we need to be. What we came here to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You just keep firing off amazing phrases today.
Oh, speaking of which, because you're saying you're just, you know, I'm firing all these like wise saying. I feel like I need to, you know, let our listeners know my name Jihei means wisdom.
Does it?
It really does. Did I not tell you that? Oops.
No.
It actually means wisdom. So I really am living.
You are
living proof of wisdom, hopefully.
You are. This is amazing. And this is also like, I'm just like, wow, there's so many things to talk about in terms of your name and the meaning and wisdom. It's almost like stepping into it and sharing your stories is kind of the external, I don't know if external is the right word, but almost like the process of you sharing who you are, right? And through the wisdom that you do have that maybe a lot of people don't realize, or they may take for granted, or will just bypass because you are an East Asian woman, that no, this is almost like a reclaiming of that, reclaiming of who you are, and exactly what you have to bring.
Wisdom.
Wise.
Yeah. Wise women, you know. WW. That could be my nickname. Well, since we're talking about wisdom and being wise women, what would any wisdom you would like to share?
You're putting me on the spot. I'm like,
sorry. But you are also wise, and I feel like people need to appreciate the wisdom that you bring to the table. You know? I'm like,
what do I want to share? Wow. And see, this is kind of the process of when you were saying that, And I was like,
oh, have I been asked this before?
have I been asked this before? And also I had this internal like discomfort of oftentimes I don't have a platform to share.
Yeah.
So then when someone's asking you, it's, are you asking me? Me?
What? Like, are you sure? And you're not going to just give me like 2 minutes, give me full 5 minutes?
Yeah, because I think that's a lot of when we were talking about our experiences, you know, this idea of we're not seen in a light that we could be knowledgeable of something, or our ideas are seen as foreign or less than and
inferior.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What I would have to say is this is not really wisdom, but more so just my experiences that in the work that I've done, it's almost like people are trying to perform expertise.
Ooh, I thought we were getting close to the end of the episode, Sam.
We'll keep it short. We'll keep it short. Right? And at the same time, how does that occur? Like who becomes an expert in whatever area, and who has the ability to actually be labeled or carry those narratives? And I can tell you it's not East Asian women.
No.
Right? So it's it's a way to again play into the narratives of what we are talking about of, you know, East Asian women and what we experience. So yeah, I would say in my experiences that even in conversation with you asking to share wisdom, this is not something that East Asian women are often given the agency to do so.
Yeah, that's a really good one because, you know, if you think about Junie, I feel like the reason why she couldn't accept Athena's success is because I think Junie thought only people like her could be in Athena's shoes or position, you know, because I think Junie thought she was the expert and the model of success. And then when Athena did, it's only because she's a model minority, right? And when you talked about us not being able to be experts, even with our own identity and culture, that's why people keep coming to us and trying to tell us what they know about our culture. And I've even had people like try to correct me on what I know. And I'm like, oh God, like, were you born there? Or like, do you have Korean parents? So it's interesting that people think they have expertise in something they have zero expertise about. The audacity.
Absolutely. And this is the thing. It's like, how did you gain that knowledge? It's from, you are stealing it from someone who's actually lived it or has the lived experience and are furthering their lived experience with some sort of, you know, other way to explore knowledge or explore that area a little bit more. And it's grounded in so many different, you know, different knowledges, whether it's like lived experience and you know, doing further research on it, but then people will just come in and this is why I say perform expertise, because you don't, oftentimes people that claim that they do have expertise or they know so much about an area, it's actually it's stolen work, and it's just the performance of gaining more power rather than you know, for one, appreciating what you're talking about, and two, actually having the lived experience to talk about it. And it's not to say that you have to have a lived experience to talk about an area. It's mostly when people co-opt those spaces and kind of take over those spaces and claim other people's culture as their area of expertise, which is exactly this book It's exactly what Junie did. And it's very problematic.
Yeah. One story I want to briefly share is like I had this friend. We're not friends anymore, but I had a there's a story reason behind it. I had this white friend who went to academia, and I think her thesis or one of her research projects had to do with racialized experiences, and the I feel like you already know where it's gonna go. And unfortunately, when she was sharing about the outcomes of this research that she did, and I'm glad, she gave people the space to share their stories, but when she shared some of these stories, I was like, I could have just told you that myself. Yeah. And I think the fact that she didn't think I had similar experiences just goes to show that, like, even when we talk about people of color, I think oftentimes people forget about us because of our model minority status, thinking like we are perfectly fine. But then when I'm like, no, all those interviews, like, I love that you learned about that, but like, this is what I've been telling you. So have you been listening to me this whole time? Clearly no. So that's why we're no longer friends. But it's almost like, and I've known this friend for a long time too, and that's why I said earlier that it's just sad when I feel like I've reached a certain point in our relationship, but like it was just mostly superficial. And I guess, like, if I can share another word of wisdom, is that try to get to know people on a one-to-one basis, because I think we oftentimes maybe hang out in a lot of group settings, or we don't really talk about our deep personal things. But I think when you have like one-on-one conversations, deep conversations, I feel like that's when you get to really know somebody, and away from noise. And you don't have to be always doing something to be spending time together, but maybe even just like sitting quietly together, just connecting. Yeah, that's what I want to tell people. If you want to show up as an awesome ally, you want to show up to somebody, whether you want to be an ally or not, build connection is all I ask of people. You don't even have to say anything, just show up.
That's a lot better. Just showing up and just being present is absolutely tenfold better than what people often do.
Oh, and I guess let's say I'm in a bad spot and you show up and I complain about it, I guarantee you I will look back on that moment and say, wow, this person really showed up for me, and then that's the best I could do. Don't worry, I will go back to you and say thank you for showing up for me. So just know that we may not always be in our best moments when you do show up, but understand that we still appreciate you, and we'll come back to you and say thank you later.
Circle back.
We will circle back. Yes.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing your story and experiences with one of your friends. And that's awful. Just simply, that's awful, and I'm sorry you had to experience that. And it's an absolute it's disheartening to realize and be faced with the fact that a friend or someone that you're connected with really did not get to know you or your stories or what you have to experience on a day-to-day basis, and then decides to pursue that as an academic or theoretical pursuit, because that often what happens in these spaces, whether it's in like the book and writing books or publishing, or in academia and other professions, where it's so theoretical to people, and it's not grounded in any sort of lived experience. So anyone who's performing expertise often is only taking things at a theoretical level and not having those understandings that it actually happens to real people and in their lives.
They have zero foundation is all I'm going to say. Zero.
How much?
Zero. And how are you supposed to like build this huge building when the foundation is cracked? That building gonna collapse sooner or later.
Yep.
So, yep, that's all I'm gonna say.
But when the building collapses, they'll just blame it on a racialized person.
Of course.
Because we're always the scapegoats.
Yeah. But don't worry. We're going to be in leadership positions and we're going to build buildings with really solid foundations and they will not fall down. And we're going to take all the credit and feel really good about it and inspire other East Asian women to do the same.
Well, there you have it. That's what's going to happen. And that just made me panic on the inside.
But it's okay. Panic today, motivation tomorrow.
Ooh,
okay, we're gonna stick to that and end it.
Look at wisdom.
Oh, so good.
All the wisdom to share this episode.
Excellent.
Well, thank you for the amazing conversation.
Same to you.
If people have not read Yellowface, please
do.
read it.
Please.
It's so good. I think
Mind-blowing.
Yeah. You'll have a better understanding from a very well-constructed story of what it's like to, be an East Asian woman.
And I hope somebody paid the author's therapy bills after writing this book.
Yes. Oh.
Yeah, that's an expensive bill, but I'm sure she's fine with the money she made from the book.
All right. Well, we'll catch everyone in the next episode.
Yes. Thank you for tuning in. Bye.